Ashwood Memorial Hospital remained abandoned for more than 4 decades after the Black December incident, the night on which all 126 patients and 14 hospital staffs disappeared without a trace. The hospital was closed, hexed, and mentioned in local legends. Others said the hospital wasn't empty. It was feeding. Marcus Reed, a ghost hunter who has been tracking real demons for decades, wasn't there for thrills. He was pursuing the creature that murdered his sister. Ashwood Memorial was her last assignment. On a freezing December evening, Marcus pushed his way through the old rusty gates. His torch struggled to penetrate the heavy fog that shrouded the hospital compound. Inside, the silence was not empty. It throbbed. The emergency room appeared unscathed. Gurneys, bloody sheets, dim overhead lights. Marcus blew softly into his recorder. First sweep, heavy EMF, room temperature dropping. Smells like decay. Then he saw it. At the far end of the hall, a figure, emaciated, bone white, stood motionless. Its face was wrapped in hospital gauze. It twitched once, and then charged at him, yelling through the bandages. Marcus stepped back, but the apparition disappeared into smoke inches short of impact. He steadied himself, his heart racing. The ghosts were not trying to scare him. They were warning him. Worse still was to come further within. The Black Wing was out of bounds during Ashwood's Operation 2. Experimental operations, occult procedures disguised as treatments. Marcus discovered the door closed with chains bearing old sigils. He paused, but the thought of his sister in his pocket encouraged him. Bolt cutters, deep breath, and in he went. The darkness in the Black Wing wasn't inherent. It moved, it breathed. Painted on the walls in blood red were slogans. Pain is the offering. Blood is the key. Ashwood is alive. In the maternity ward, he heard it. The wet sound of something dragging itself across the floor. And then the crying of a newborn. Sick, broken, inhuman. He should have run. Instead, he followed the sound. The maternity ward was full of decay and rusting metal. Marcus moved carefully as each step crushed on broken glass and dried blood. Room 309's door was already half open, a slow, sick groan escaping as it moved. Inside, the birthing demon waited. It was far worse than anything Marcus had practiced. Its legs were spider-thin, its flesh an awful ash gray, spotted with weeping ulcers. In its arms, a shapeless, squirming mass that screamed, not a baby, but hundreds of screaming people. Its head turned towards Marcus, neck flexing abnormally far back, bones cracking loudly. Its voice was inside him, not outside. You can't save her. You may only feed us. Marcus backed off, grasping his recorder like it would defend him. Suddenly, the walls surrounding him shifted, peeling like rotten skin, revealing faces protruding out of the concrete. Eyes weeping black ichor, mouths silently begging. One face was unmistakable, his sister. Her hair floated in the air as though she were submerged underwater. Her fingers slammed into the wall, nails breaking as she tried to claw free. Marcus tried to understand her, but the demon's scream shattered the moment and he was sent flying back against the other wall. The animal in its grasp dropped to the ground in a wet splat and crawled towards him, leaving a trail of blood and squirming worms. Marcus fled, heart shattering, but guilt followed him more closely than the darkness. The deeper he went, the more Ashwood shifted. Hallways rearranged themselves. Doors came and went. Whispers became louder. Finally, Marcus stood outside the hospital chapel, its huge stained glass windows now casting gruesome images of human sacrifice. Within, the altar lay in wait, constructed from human femurs and skulls, stitched together with old medical wire. Over it, a mural. Surgeons gathered around a black pit, holding out the still-beating hearts of their patients to a monstrous, many-eyed demon. In the center of the altar, a serrated iron dagger was set upon a blood-stained cloth. Marcus shuddered as he climbed up. The spirits were near him, no longer wicked, but desperate. Some mouthed prayers, others simply cried. Others, like his sister, looked at him with dull, beseeching eyes. The demon's voice had become a chorus, singing from the cracks in the ceiling. Blood is the sludel. Pain is the offering. Join us. He had two options. Spill his blood and bind himself forever, but rescue the trapped souls. Or flee, letting them suffer forever, but saving himself. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his vision of his sister's broken, warped face held him in place. Marcus held the dagger. The air that surrounded him pulsed, alive and hungry. Marcus thrust the dagger into his hand, hissing through his teeth as blood gushed out. And when his blood stained the altar, the ground trembled with violence. The chapel walls erupted asunder like festering sores, and the abominable form under Ashwood was exposed. A massive demon, stitched together from thousands of screaming faces, rose up from the very bowels of the hospital. It shrieked, not in pain, but in triumph. Bolts of light burst forth from the altar, encircling Marcus's soul as the blood ritual was finished. He knelt to the ground. The spirits surrounding him were pulled upwards in a wave of white fog, their chains snapping one by one. Their faces, which had been contorted in pain, relaxed into serenity as they stood up. Marcus smiled feebly, realizing that he had saved them, even as dark tentacles encircled his legs, dragging him down into the ground. The demon's laughter was the last sound he heard as he was dragged to the center of the hospital, body and soul becoming one with the accursed building. Above ground, Ashwood groaned, starving once more. Ashwood Memorial was a legend 2 decades later. A YouTube crew of ghost hunters, too much ego and not enough fear, snuck behind the creaking, rusty gates with their cameras. The hospital welcomed them with open arms. They laughed at the graffiti in the lobby. They challenged one another to enter the basement, the Black Wing. They never noticed the figure in the background, a man with sorrowful, hollow eyes, a figure fused into the very bones of the hospital. Marcus. As the doors thudded shut behind them with the noise of thunder, the team stood immobile. The cameras continued to roll, capturing fleeting glimpses of something moving on the periphery. They shrieked when they spotted the birthing demon slithering across the ceiling. They wept when they came upon the chapel of blood, still fresh as the day Marcus had died. One at a time, the hospital took them, not because they hated them, but because they were hungry. And in the chapel, the altar grew stronger, the pile of bones taller, the demon deeper. Ashwood Memorial would never die, because fear is eternal. And somewhere down below the broken floors, Marcus's voice could still be heard, whispering, "Run, before it tastes you too."